Hey, it's Soul with a very unusual video because normally I don't talk about class changes from a week-to-week basis because everything tends to change each week. And well, this week is no exception. Wow, I really want to talk about, at least for a little bit, what's going on with Paladins, specifically Ret Paladins in this 10.0.7 PTR. Because right now, things are nuts. Things are looking absolutely insane in a good way. Paladins, Ret Paladins, they pretty much changed everything. They changed so much about their class, and again, this is going to be very unusual because I'm not normally a person who talks about Ret Paladins because I'm not very good with them. I'm not very knowledgeable about how it works, but I couldn't help but listen to people rave over what sorts of changes are going on. And let's be very clear that changes are most definitely going to happen with this class, with so many other classes, but it's just nuts. Like, I feel like what they did, and I'm playing right now. This is me just kind of like looking at stuff and mashing buttons and stuff. You know, it's it's just baffling that what they did was, hey, let's just give paladins the ability to cleave everything. Like, hey, you want to throw like 5 hammers? Sure, go ahead. You want to, you know, use your Templar's verdict or whatever, you know, like all the way at range, like right here. Let me just go up. Boom, like that. Yeah, sure, go ahead. You know, you want to throw your Blade of Justice and have it hit targets in AoE? Sure. And you can have all these things together. Oh, and not only that, my Crusader Strike now has longer range. I think it's I think I'm, you know, you could obviously say that I'm not in melee range, but here I am hitting 5 targets with my Crusader Strike. And this is fun. I gotta say, this is definitely one of the more fun builds that I've ever tested in WoW, because this is just ridiculous. And it goes without saying that, again, this is going to get rebalanced, it's going to get nerfed, numbers are going to change like super dramatically, but it's just wild. Seeing some of the weaknesses of paladins that I hear so much from people with regards to Ret, and especially with PvP. Mobility was such a big problem for paladins, and I don't have Divine Steed on my bars right now, but knowing that Divine Steed is now going to be off the global cooldown is amazing. We'll see if that actually sticks. Although the thing that has me really fascinated about Ret now in Dragonflight, or at least in this build, is that one of the things that they really tried to address with mobility was not exactly to give paladins like a closer, you know, like there have been rumors about an ability called Wings of Liberty, where they have pretty much their own sort of heroic leap style ability. That's not the route that they're exactly taking here. Like, they did give us, you know, the ability to have a stronger Divine Steed. It lasts a little bit longer. It's off the global. That's great. But what they also did, and it's something that folks haven't really talked about much, is that, well, these ranged abilities really change like what it means to be a melee player, you know, because, you know, if I really wanted to, or if I'm in a PvP situation and I'm chasing someone, I only really need to chase them so far. Now, of course, there's line of sight and there's those things to worry about, but if I'm like really far, like okay, come on, really, what melee can line of sight someone, and then as someone is like maybe like kind of running around, you can just kind of go out and start throwing hammers and all and such things. Now, this isn't very reasonable. This is kind of the AoE-ish kind of spec, but being able to be at a distance like this and being able to be just as effective as you are when you're really close range, that's wild. That's crazy. And I'm doing some pretty ridiculous DPS. I'm obviously not trying, but, you know, over here on the details, I've been able to hit easily about 100,000 or so. This is before even hitting my Divine Toll or popping wings or any of that stuff. Here I am doing it now, but it's not like a big deal. It's just nuts. It's crazy. Like, imagine in a raid fight, and your raid lead is saying, hey, everyone, make sure that you guys are spread 5 yards apart, especially you, melee, and then you, the paladin, you're like, yeah, no problem, dude, I'm just gonna be right back here. and I'm gonna be like doing my thing and you know, and having a good time. So it's nuts. You know, we're 3 months into the expansion. We are in the middle of the season, and we're seeing an overhaul, a full class overhaul, it feels like, with Paladins. You know, Red's getting some huge changes. Regrettably, I can't really speak to the holy stuff because I think they had some stuff going on in 10.0.5. Prod is getting some very big changes too, but I'm mostly talking about Red today because, one, it's just like such a night and day change of what the spec, you know, is on live right now versus like just the ridiculousness that's going on now. So I'm going to go over and highlight some of these big changes or some of these new talents or changed talents, and I'm going to do my best to kind of demonstrate my competency or my comprehension of what's going on here. I'll do my best. I apologize if and where I get stuff totally wrong. So Divine Steed now has a 6-second charge. I'm sorry, a 6-second duration. You can still add 2 charges. You can still add another couple of seconds. So you get a much more versatile, a more versatile Divine Steed. There is, gosh, I'm just going to be kind of jumping around here, mostly looking at red stuff. But here's something notable here with Sanctified Plates to increase your durability or your longevity by a little bit. Right down here with Crusader's Reprieve, this is what gives you some of the additional range. That's Crusader Strike, as well as other abilities that will be able to benefit via, and I don't even think I see it here, I'll have to go over to Crusader Aura, right over there in the tooltip, that now Crusader Aura, it also happens to increase your range by a number of yards. Now, whether or not that's going to be effective is kind of suspect. There might be, at worst, you might want to consider some aura weaving. Hey, I'm going to be at range, let me switch to aura, let me switch to Crusader. Oh, let me get back, I'm going to get back in, let me switch back to a Retribution aura so I can get the usual benefits. But most of the, you know, there are so many, there's just so many big changes here. Divine Toll is now on the class tree along with Resonance. Dusk and Dawn has been revamped to be much more controllable, and this applies to all the classes, not just with Retribution. After using 3 generators, you get Blessing of Dawn, and then once you spend it, you immediately get Blessing of Dusk. And they enhanced the things that you can do too. I happened to pick up Fading Light. This makes it so that, well, the thing that I paid attention to here was that Blessing of Dusk, and now causes your generators to grant an Absorb Shield equivalent to some of the damage or healing that you had dealt. And if I'm throwing these crazy judgments here while I have Dusk going, that's kind of cool. That does quite a bit with increasing some of the survivability of Paladins. It's pretty nuts. But most of the attention over here is going to go towards the spec tree. There are more changes here than I can count. Notably, things like Wake of Ashes, they've been moved way down the tree, and to be honest, they feel, at least in this build, they feel very unexciting as opposed to, you know, throwing 4 hammers or throwing a Blade of Justice that hits targets in AoE. But let's try to go down and look at some of the examples here. So we got Swift Justice. We can reduce the cooldown of some of the abilities. But let's go to some more fun stuff. So let's go down to like, for example, here, Crusading Strikes. This is what replaces your auto attack with Crusader Strike. It's very similar to replacing Devastate for Protection Warriors. But in this case, this still creates this still generates holy power. It still procs certain abilities and perks that will get your Blade of Justice to come off of cooldown. It's pretty nuts. There are things to enhance this Crusader Strike, and of course it's multiplied by the fact that we're throwing so many. This is the talent right here that gives us the ability to hit up to 5 targets with Crusader Strike. There's this Procure Blade of Vengeance. This is the one that lets Blade of Justice become an AoE. I'm able to throw Judgment at up to 5 targets at a time and get most of the benefits out of it. It's not like I'm going to generate 5 holy power every time I throw a Judgment, but well, in practice, it's just nuts. Once I pop everything, and then I pop Final Reckoning, then I could just like go absolutely nuts with the AoE and do like some really tremendous damage. You can see my stuff and jumping up like really fast, and I'm just mashing buttons. I have no idea what I'm doing, to be perfectly honest. But it's not just me talking about paladins and how awesome they feel right now, it's just the whole premise of what this patch means these days. It's kind of like we're approaching a paradigm where we're going to see like big class changes, big shifts, things like that, coming at any point in the in a patch cycle. It could be the 05, the 07, could be the the 0.1 patches, could be any of these. And it feels like, in a good way, the team is not as afraid at all as it were before with making big sweeping class changes. Now, there are some drawbacks to that. The whole feeling of not knowing if your class is going to feel totally different from one patch or another. It makes one think, okay, maybe Blizzard's doing a little bit too much meta chasing or trying to be ahead of it, but it results with people feeling either dissatisfied with their class because all of a sudden, hey, my class doesn't feel as good anymore, or if anything, it just doesn't feel as familiar as it did before. It's like, hey, I know that the class needed some help, but I was doing okay. It's not a big deal. And at the same time, there are other folks, I guess we would call them more casual folk, who don't really understand why certain changes happen. And some of those folks, they'll see changes that they'll see, their class be redefined, and they'll be like, okay, why is this happening? It's like, it's happening because for the sake of change, or is it because the top players are causing some undue influence? And that sometimes might not make people feel good. But for now, I want to know what you guys think. I'm gonna leave the class change notes over in the video description, and I do apologize again. I know that I'm not as well versed with Ret Paladins as I should be, given that I'm making a video on it, but I was just really excited to talk about it. These changes are great, and they're insane, and it's gonna change a whole lot more, but for now, I'm just kind of riding that high. So feel free to share your thoughts on this. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.